Every royal tale must have a grand finale, and today the Princess of Orphan Gemstones unveils her last treasures. Will you join her court one final time? From the very first sparkle of sodalite, the Princess of Orphan Gemstones has taken us on a journey of elegance and wonder. With every bead, every shimmer, she has revealed her court. Earrings that twinkle like stars, bracelets woven with whispers of silk, pendants worthy of royalty itself. But like all grand tales, this one must bow gracefully toward its end. Though the crown jewels of this collection will soon rest in their chests, their beauty lives on in the creations we make, the stories we bead, and the laughter shared along the way. And so, with one last curtsy, the princess invites you to celebrate the final chapter of her gemstone reign. So to get started on our necklace, we need to have our wire out, as well as our gemstones, our checkerboards, our little spacers that we're going to use, and our seed beads that you choose to use, as well as your pendant. And all of these other things up here at the top we will use here at the very end. So I'll go through stringing half the necklace with you, and then I'll break away and I'll finish the rest of the necklace, so that way you don't have to watch me string the whole thing on and at the same time. But to start off, I'm going to be using the soft flex wire. I'm using the dark blue lapis color today, only because it goes really, really well with the blue color of the sodalite. So I'm going to leave the wire on the spool itself, and then I'm just going to string along. So I'll verbally tell you what I'm going to be using. I'm just going to start off with a 6mm moonstone, and then a 6mm sodalite. 6mm moonstone. Just realized that my hand was probably in the way there. One of my 8/0 seed beads, and I'm doing the what is this one? I think this silver Labrador. Yeah, silver Labrador full is the color that I'm using today of the 8/0 seed beads. Then I'm going to put one of my checkerboards on. Do another 8/0 seed bead, 6mm moonstone, and then a 6mm sodalite, 6mm moonstone, 8/0 seed bead, checkerboard, 8/0 seed bead, 6mm moonstone, an 8mm sodalite. Oh, hello lizard. There's a big lizard on my window. 6mm moonstone. Sorry, I went squirrel there for a second because there's something huge moving across my window all of a sudden. And there is a seed bead, a checkerboard, a seed bead, moonstone, 8mm sodalite. So now we're going in this direction. And then your moonstone. Now these are the little spacers that I'm going to use in this necklace. So these are the thin spacers that came in the combination kit of the spacers that you got. So I'm going to use that, then a checkerboard, then the spacer, moonstone, 8mm sodalite, moonstone, somewhere's the hole, spacer. We're getting to the center of the necklace now. A checkerboard, and a spacer, and the moonstone, the 8mm sodalite, and now we're to the center of the necklace. So for the center part, we're going to put one of the 4mm moonstones. Now if you don't have any of the 4mm moonstones, you can always use the 4mm sodalite that came in the kit as well. I just wanted to use the moonstone just to kind of give it a little bit of a break in between my pendant as well as the last sodalite, but it's going to look just as pretty if you have one of the sodalites sitting there also. I'm going to go ahead and put a seed bead. I don't think it's even really necessary, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway, because this clasp is going to sit basically in between the two 4mm sodalite or moonstones that we're using right here. So it'll end up sitting, there we go, if I can get it to sit right. It'll end up sitting just like that. So that way the 4mm are going to basically help keep the pendant in place. So that is the first half of the necklace. Now the second half of the necklace, we're just going to go backwards. So we're going to start with the 8mm sodalite and then go back in the opposite direction. So if you need to, I will pause it right here just so you can kind of get a glimpse, and you can pause it yourself. And that way you can get a glimpse of what you need to do to go backwards with the necklace. And then meet me back and I will show you how to finish off one end of it and then where to cut off on the other end. Once you have everything strung on, you want to go back through your necklace and make sure that you have everything in the correct order. What I usually do is I'll fold it in half like this, and then I'll hold it up in front of me, and then I'll just go across like this with my eyes just to make sure that I have everything in the same place and make sure that it is symmetrical. If you want it asymmetrical, then go for it if that's what you choose to do. Once you're happy with it, you need to go ahead and put on your crimp tube. And I'm doing a quick check real quick just to see if I have the front or the back of my pendant. When you look at the bail of the pendant, you'll see a little bit of a little clip right here. There's like a little clip that's holding the bail onto the jump ring that's attached to your gemstone. That little clip will show you that that's going to be the back side of the stone. Now, of course, you can always make this the front side of the stone if you wanted to, but that's going to end up being the back side of the stone, so this will end up being the front side. So I'm going to clip off this side first, which is actually going to be the left-hand side of your necklace. So this is where our jump ring and our extender chain is going to go. Reason why I'm telling you that is that if you have your gemstone strung to where you're actually clipping off the right hand side of this, then that's typically where you put your lobster clasp. And then I'll show you how to add the lobster clasp here in just a moment. So to add your crimp tube, you want to turn your wire through that crimp tube again to make yourself a little loop, and then go down until you have just a small little loop there. Doesn't really matter the size as much, other than you just don't want it to be too huge and you don't want it to be too small either. Then you put your crimp tube in the middle of your pliers. I'm using the magical crimpers today. And once they are in the middle of the pliers, then you're going to squish down. That will end up making a little box. Turn it 90 degrees, put them back in the middle of your pliers, and then you would squish down again. And then lift up and squish, lift up and squish as you're turning your wire. And then do that, 3 or 4 more times, or 5 or 6, or really however many times that you feel like you need to, until you don't have too much resistance. And when you're done with the resistance, you'll have a nice little ball of crimp like that. I actually have one little spot there that I'm going to try to get rid of. That didn't crimp down very good. It's been a minute since I've crimped, so I've been doing a lot of bead weaving lately. I have not been doing as much crimping and making necklaces and bracelets and stuff, so there we go. So now it is crimped. And then go ahead and cut off your excess wire. Before you do that, do your little tug test. Make sure that it is in there and it's not going anywhere. Now cut off your excess wire. And then once you have that done, go ahead and save your excess little piece of wire, because you never know, you might end up using that in another project whenever you need an area to be able to get some bulk into your crimp tubes. And then push your beads all the way over to the end of the crimp tube that you just made. Leave it a little bit loose here, and what we're going to do now is we're going to curl this up a little bit. While curling it in this fashion helps to loosen up the beads just ever so slightly, so it's a little bit looser to where the beads are able to move around and it's not so rigid feeling. So now that once you have that, then we're going to use 3 finger widths. So I'm holding the last bead up against my 3rd finger down there. I'm going to use 3 widths of my fingers, and I'm just going to cut off some around up in there. You can cut off more if you want to. You can cut off less if you want to. Now this is the side that we're going to add the lobster clasp. We're first going to put on our crimp tube. Then we're going to string on the lobster clasp, which is not wanting to go through the wire, or the wire's not wanting to go through the lobster. Alright, and then you just add, or you do the same thing with your wire on this side. Go back through your crimp tube again. Now this one, you want to make sure that you get your lobster clasp close down to the product, similar to what we just did with just making a simple loop, but you want to make sure that you leave yourself enough room to where that lobster can move around some, and it's not rigid. So once you have a good amount of room right there, on this side, I am going to crimp down again. Now I'm leaving myself a little extra room. If you don't notice, see if I can get it to focus. There we go. There's a little bit of room in between this moonstone and then the crimp tube. That's so I can get this guy in there. So there is going to be a little bit of a leeway, which is fine. You're still really not going to notice it. And then you just crimp down, make yourself a little box, turn it 90 degrees, get it back in the center of the crimper, and then squish down, and then turn and squish a couple more times until you're happy with the way it feels in your crimper, because you'll be turning it and everything and you'll realize, oh, okay, it's probably done now, because you're turning and you're going and you feel like you're just, you feel like you're just doing this, that nothing's happening. When that's the case, you typically have a little ball of crimp right there. So that happens, you're usually done. And then go ahead and cut off, whoops, cut off the excess wire. Save that piece for another project if I need it. And then that part is already cut off. So now all we have to do is just add on our little extras. So I'm going to go ahead and add on my jump ring to the other side. This is just a stainless steel jump ring that I had. It's a 6mm one that I had in my stash. Push that on. I'm going to go ahead and put the extender chain on right away as well. And then close that up. You're going to end up with about a 16-inch necklace, give or take a little bit here or there. And then now we're going to add my little charm that I made. I had exactly one left of my 6mm moonstone, so that's why I went ahead and decided to do a charm. And this was made with the little ball head pins that came in the kit as well. So I just have a little 4mm jump ring here. I'm going to put that on the other end of the extender chain, just to put a little decoration at the end of the necklace. When you have that done, you have a completed necklace with your Gemstone Princess Orphan. To get started with the bracelet, you will need to have your needle and just a comfortable length of thread on your needle itself. I'm using the Wildfire 0.006 in the white today. only because I'm using a lot of different white beads and stuff. To start off with, we're going to do a stop bead and pick up one of your 11-Os, and this is just one of the 11-Os from the kit. I just pulled out the colors that are the Capri Blue color. So it's the transparent Capri Blue color. Wow, that's hard for me to say right now. To use it as a stop bead, we went through it once. Now we're going to bring it down to the end of the thread till you have enough that's comfortably to hold on to, and then go back through that bead one more time. You can go through it 2 times if you want to kind of keep it more stable, but I'm just going to do it just once. And all we're going to do is we're just going to string along till we get to the other end. Then we'll add our wire guard, come back, add the second wire guard, but go back again. You basically want to have at least 2 thread pass through each wire guard. So we're going to go through each one of these at least a couple of times. We're going to start off with one of the Hishi beads. If you don't have the Hishis, you can always use the triangle crystals that came in the box as well. That would be another option for you. Pick up one of the pearls that we got as an extra gift, and then a Hishi. Then we're going to do basically an increase decrease. We're going to start off with one of the 15s, the 11, the little crystals that we got, the light blue crystal rondelles that we got, and then an 11 and a 15. So that's your increase decrease. So that's your pattern right there. A Hishi, your pearl, a Hishi, then your increase decrease of your 15, 11, crystal, 11, 15. So I'm just going to go ahead and string this on until I get down to the other end. Once I get down to the other end, I will come back and I will show you how to add the wire guard on there. And I know some people don't like to use wire guards. If you don't want to use a wire guard, perfectly fine. Options for you would be to get some of your 8-Os out that came in the kit and use an 8-O and a, what are those, jump rings to connect from the 8-O to your clasp of your choice. So go ahead and continue on with this and then meet me back at the other side and I will show you how to add that wire guard and we'll continue on. Now that you're at the end of your bracelet, I'm going to go ahead and add another one of our seed beads here. I thought at first I was going to take this seed bead off the stop bead, but I think I'm actually going to use it. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on this side and go ahead and add another one of our 11-O seed beads. Then we're going to pick up our wire guard. If you're not familiar with a wire guard, I'll show you up close what it is. It is a horseshoe shaped item like this, and it has 2 holes down here at the bottom, one on either end, and then it has a channel that goes along up here around the top. That's to where your wire can sit and be protected from your clasp, or you can use it with thread and needle as well. So go ahead and go up one side of your wire guard, bring it down to your product, and then go down the other side of the wire guard. Now, I usually pinch my wire guard just slightly in between my fingers like that, and that just helps to guide the thread into the wire guard itself. And then that's pretty much it. Now, before I go too far, I'm going to go ahead and pinch this one. Now, some of these are stainless steel, so sometimes they're a little hard to pinch. But if you pinch these closed a little bit, then they usually sit on top of your 11-Os a little bit easier. And now all we're going to do is we're just going to go straight through every single one of these beads. One more time until we get down to the other end. And then we'll add the wire guard on the other end in a similar fashion. And then after we get done with that, once you add the wire guard down here, it'll be the same way. And once you get the wire guard on, you can take your loop off of your stop bead here. You know what, I'll go ahead and I'll just string all the way down there and then I'll meet you back and I'll show you how to do that. Just in case if you're new, I know some people are not going to be new at this and they're going to skip on through. Perfectly fine, you can skip on into the next little section and I'll show you how to put together the clasp itself. If you are new, come back and I'll show you how to do that part. And when you're back down to the very beginning of the bracelet again, we're going to go ahead and go back through that seed bead in the same direction that we were going in beforehand. So we're going towards the beginning thread, or the thread that was hanging out of the bead. Once you have that done, now you can take your little loop that you did around your seed bead and you can take that off. And I'm just pulling on the loop with the needle, and I'm holding the seed bead in my fingers. And then that way, you now have your beginning thread hanging off to the left here, and you have your working thread on the right hand side. Now we want to make sure that we don't have too much, that your bracelet can kind of move around a little bit and everything. One thing before I get too far, if you needed to add some more length to this, if you tried it out after you got down to one end and you needed to add some more length, then you can always add more of your crystal beads, more of your hishis if you have those. I used up all of the, what are these? The pearls that came in the box from Steve's private collection. I used up all of those pearls already, so you can always use more of the crystals, more seed beads, just add a little bit of length on either end if you needed to. So to continue on, pick up your wire guard again, because that was the biggest thing. We wanted to make sure that we went through that seed bead again, so we're going to go through the wire guard through one of the holes. Now this one's already actually pinched, because I wanted to make sure that I could actually pinch them. Because some of them, like I said, are really hard to pinch. And then go down the other hole of the wire guard, just making sure that the thread stays in the wire guard itself. So now here comes the super duper easy part. You just go straight back through all your beads again to get down to the other end of the bracelet. Loop through your wire guard, come back down one more time. Now remember, our thread is coming out in between the wire guard and this seed bead right here. So you're going to have to loop through the wire guard one more time before we can tie off. So go ahead and get all of that done, and then meet me back and I'll show you how to add your clasp. And then also, if you needed to, I'll show you an alternate way of adding some length to your bracelet. I'm back down at the beginning again. So I've already gone through my wire guard, and I am now caught up to where my starter thread is sitting. First thing you want to do is you want to make sure that everything is wiggly enough, basically, so you're not pulling your thread so tight that your beads and everything won't be able to move around. The other thing is that you want to make sure that you don't skip any beads by accident. And wow, that did not focus. Okay. So see, you can see a thread path right here because I skipped some beads. I went ahead and just left it there because not everything's perfect, and if somebody is purchasing this bracelet, then they will look at it and say, oh, well, it is handmade, so there you go. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. Alright, so I'm going to tie off here at the end. Just make a simple little knot. Right over left, left over right. And then after you get that done, then I'm going to go back down the 11-0, if I can find it, this far away from my face. And then let's see if I can go back through the pearl again. Pearl may be enough thread paths through it. Okay, yeah, I did. So I went through the 11-0, the hishi, pearl, hishi again. I'm not going to go back through the 15s. I was already having a few problems having to kind of wiggle my thread through some of the 15s. They were getting kind of tight. So go ahead and give yourself a little tug there. And then this is where we will burn off. Whoa, so sorry, hit the camera. This is where we will burn off our thread. So burn just down close to the product. And then take your thread burner and just make a little ball of thread that gets really close to the product after that. You want to leave yourself about an 1/8 to 1/16 of an inch of thread, and then just ball it up until it looks like that. So now we have that part done. put my thread needle off to the side. This will end up going in the trash. Alright, so if you need options on making your bracelet a little bit longer than what you already have, you can always use jump rings. I usually use, when I do a toggle clasp like this, I'll use one of my jump rings to attach the loop of the toggle clasp, and then I typically use 2 jump rings to attach the bar, and then that will give hopefully enough room to be able to get the bar through the loop itself. So hopefully that'll work okay. This one just already happens to be open, so I'm going to go ahead and use that one right away. And I'm going to put on my, yeah, it's the same on both sides. I was checking to make sure that the loop had a design on both sides. I'm going to put my loop on this side, and then I'll open up these 2 guys, and then put the bar on this side. And then I will measure it for you and see how it turns out as far as lengthwise. And then that'll kind of give you an idea if you need to increase your length of your bracelet. I tend to wear kind of small bracelets. I like to have my bracelets a little bit more tighter on my wrist. And it also kind of depends on the time of the year. During the summertime, I want my bracelets loose because I tend to swell up more in the summertime when I get really, really hot for whatever reason. There's probably a good medical reason why, but whatever. And so I tend to wear looser bracelets in the summer and tighter bracelets in the winter. Alright, so let's check this out and see what size this is going to end up being. So we're going to put this clasp together, and then we're going to let it sit right here. And it looks like it's somewhere around a 6.5 to 6 3/4 of an inch of inches of a bracelet. So somewhere around a 6.5 to 6 3/4. Like I said, I wear a smaller type bracelet, and I'm not even sure if I can get this on me right now because I'm on camera. So, and toggles usually I have problems with, so let's see if I can do it really quick, because I'm trying to keep this video short. Ah, I did it. Oh, I did it and then it fell apart. Yeah. Okay, well anyways, you can see that I wear kind of a small bracelet. So that's the bracelet for this tutorial. To start off with your earring, you'll need to have a thread and needle set and ready to go. I am using the same color, the Wildfire 0.006 in white. This is actually the same part of the thread that I had left over from when I did the bracelet. So if you already did the bracelet, then just if you have enough thread left over, go ahead and use that for your earring. To start off, I'm going to actually start off down here at this part of the earring, then we're going to move ourselves upwards, then we're going to come back down, add some extra beads, and then go back and forth through the beadwork again. Now these clear 8/0 seed beads were the ones that came with the pearls. If you remember that the pearls were separated by a crystal bead, and then these are the beads. This is where I got those beads from. So I'm going to pick up one of those. We're going to pick up our bead frame that is like the flower. Now the bead frame, you have a hole going in between 2 petals, and then you have a hole going through the center of one of the petals. We want to start off going through one of the hole in between the 2 petals there. Before you get to the other side, you want to go ahead and add your moonstone. And somewhere is the hole, there it is, for the moonstone. And then go ahead and go through the top hole of your bead frame. So that's how you add that. Pick up my thread again so I don't lose my other beads. Alright, so on top of that we're going to put the other crystal bead that came with the pearls. Then we're going to use one of the sodalite rondelles. Now if you don't have the rondelles, you can substitute this for pretty much anything, whatever you want to use. You can use another moonstone if you wanted to. You can use a 6mm, 4mm, 8mm of your sodalites, whichever one that you want to use on that. Then we're going to top it off with one of the crystal 8/0 seed beads that came in the mix. So then that is the top third, 2/3 portion of your earring. So now we're going to go back down through all of these beads. So we're going through the sodalite, the crystal bead, the bead frame, the moonstone, the other side of the bead frame, and the other crystal bead. Come on out. Now we need to add our heart. Now our heart needs to be facing to where our heart is, the top of the heart, or the top of the heart is facing the top of the earring. So I have it upside down right now. So we're going to go through the top of the heart, come out the bottom, and then we're going to add our other crystal seed bead from our mix. And then that's basically all of your beads put together. Of course I have it upside down again, but that's all your beads put together. So now we're going to round this out, skip over your 8/0, and go back through all these beads again. I'm trying to keep these tutorials very short and simple for everybody. So that way if somebody just needs to make something quick and easy for a gift, then they can. I already came out of the 8/0 that's up here at the top, the little crystal one. I'm going to go right back down everything. So I'm wrapping around that 8/0 and going back down all of my beads down to the other crystal 8/0 down here at the bottom. And this is so I can get 2 thread paths through each of my beads at least. Then we're going to wrap through the crystal bead there. And our starter thread is coming out in between the crystal bead that came with the pearls and our heart. So we need to go back through the heart and come out before the crystal bead. And then that is where we will tie off. Before you tie off though, you want to make sure that you adjust your 8/0s to where they're kind of sitting in the way that you would like. I always try to get mine to sit straight up and down like this. I just feel like it looks nicer, it looks prettier. It doesn't have to do that because once you put the jump ring in on this bead up here, then it's probably going to sit up straight. So just something I usually do. It's not absolutely necessary. Now all we need to do is create a knot again. So right over left, left over right. And then once you get that done, I'm going to go ahead and go back through this crystal bead from the pearls and then come out, and that's just to kind of get the knot away and kind of hide it inside that bead is basically what I'm trying to do, is hide the knot inside the bead. With it being an earring, it's probably not going to get that much wear and tear, but I usually do just do it that way. And then I'm going to burn down the 2 pieces of thread. And then just like we did on the bracelet, you take your thread burner and make little balls of thread down close to the product itself. Just like that. So now that is set, so then this piece goes in the trash, and then this I'll probably use to help me come up with some other ideas. I usually save some of my threads that I end up using on projects, so that way it helps me practice and see what's going to work on my next project. So now I'm going to use one of my 4mm jump rings. I'm going to make sure that my 8/0 is facing in the direction that I want it to face. It's really an earring, so I mean it's going to flop around in your ear and everything, so it's going to it'll move around. So if it's not sitting correctly right now, it'll most likely sit correctly sometime or another. And then just slide your jump ring through your 8/0. put your ear wire on whichever way you want your front to be facing. And then close these up. Let's see if I can get this closed. Oh yay, it worked for me this time. Sometimes these stainless steel jump rings give me problems. But that actually worked out really well. So once you get your other one done, then you have your earrings for this tutorial. And so, dear friends, our royal visit draws to a close. The Princess of Orphan Gemstones has shared her treasures, sodalite spark, twilight silks, and all her glittering companions. Each one a jewel fit for a queen, yet crafted by your own hands with creativity and care. What began as a small sample in the hands of a princess has blossomed into a kingdom of artistry, where every bead, every gem, and every stitch becomes part of a royal tapestry. In this court, imagination reigns supreme, and beauty is found not in the palace, but at our bead mats. I want to extend my deepest gratitude to Steve and Debbie for entrusting me with this opportunity to help bring this kit to life. Their vision gave our princess her sparkling crown, and it has been an honor to share her story with all of you. But her reign does not end here. The Princess of Orphan Gemstones longs to see the treasures that you create. Keep designing, keep experimenting, and most of all, share your royal jewels with the kingdom. Post your pictures, inspire others, and let the creativity continue to shine. And with that, the princess takes her bow, her court of gems glittering in the light. Yet her story lives on in every necklace, bracelet, and earring you bring to life. Long live the creativity of this royal court, and long live the makers who keep its magic alive. And today, the Princess of Orphan Gemstones unveils her last treasures. Will you join... My computer just shut off. Of course it did. Ay, ay, ay. But like all grand tales, this one must put through the crown jewels. Not through, it's though. Oh, I forgot to do that. Hold on. Where am I stopping?